Hello, everyone. Welcome to Across the Bifrost, the Mighty Thor podcast, where on each and every episode, we explore the world of Marvel's Mighty Thor. I am one of your hosts, Ryan Doze. Eric Teskey is with me tonight. We are going to team up some new comics reviews. We're going to be talking about Thor, Doctor Strange, an anniversary issue of Avengers, and the brand new first issue of a limited series featuring Knull. And very excited to get all these comics in front of you, hear some of our thoughts about them. But Eric, it's been a minute since we reviewed a bunch of new comics. We had a little, a hiccup in our normal schedule when, of all people, Al Ewing was like, sure, I'll talk to you guys about Thor. So we've missed a few new comics, but it was worth it. I feel like it was worth it, right?
Well, we didn't miss them. We read them.
Right, we read them.
And now we're bringing them to the audience because we've got 4 great issues. And as we will see, the world of Thor and the world of Asgard is permeating out into all these other titles. And so we've got a collection of titles that all have to do with Thor in some way for you tonight.
We will explain all the connections. A lot of them are fairly obvious, and we'll just bring a little bit more depth to them as we are able to. But I'm very excited about this. I love when Eric and I get together, talk about comics, and just follow down the little rabbit holes that we find in these books. So we're going to start off with the Mac Daddy, the one that everybody kind of expects us to talk to because we love talking about it. It is Mortal Thor, issue 6. This came out on January 21st. And so we're not that behind on this one, but this is written by Al Ewing, pencils and inks by Pascal Ferry, colors by Matt Milla, letters by the lettering god VC's Joe Sabino, and edited by, of course, Will Moss. So we also get a fantastic Alex Ross cover of Thor being chased down by Cobra. We are visiting the gods of Midgard, and on the face of it, Eric, I'm very excited to spend more time with these classic Thor villains because it scratches a very niche but particular itch in my brain of getting street level villains with a more street level Thor. So going into the issue, before we do our little breakdown, first impressions of the book, and what were you excited going into this book to find out or get more information about?
Yeah, Legacy number 792. We've got Thor, kind of Thor. It's the mortal Thor versus Cobra. And what I think is so cool about this is we just recently had the immortal Thor versus Cobra and the rogues gallery of these early villains, and Thor demolished them easily. It was no contest. And so now it's really a really fun juxtaposition to see, okay, strip away all the godly power and how would somebody fare against these villains? And suddenly they seem a lot more powerful, a lot more capable. So I really loved how it's very classic Thor vibes, giving these OG villains time to shine. They're actually, super powered individuals, unlike Sigurd. And so they're nothing to take lightly, but a lot of fun getting to see some highlights. And from the solicitations, it looks like we're going to be seeing a few different early Thor villains over the next few issues.
Yeah, it would seem, due to the solicitations that we've gotten for the next few months, we are going to be running the gamut of all the different classic Thor villains that we saw in Immortal. And so we have a cover for next month, and this will tie into the story of this issue at the end, but we have a cover with Hyde on it for next issue. 2 issues from now, we have Chen Lu, the radioactive man, and Sigurd in a just a fetching hazmat suit as he's fighting Chen Lu. And it would lead me to believe that the Grey Gargoyle will be after that, but we'll have to see when solicitations come out for May if that proves to be true. So we are going to break down the latest issue after I give you a little bit of a synopsis, and we'll add nuance and detail into this. This was a fairly straightforward issue. I've been appreciating that about these more current, recent Mortal Thor stories, but we must start off with a short little page-to-page break into where is Thor? Thor is floating in the dark nothingness of the afterlife, and answering a few questions for us. And he's like, Sigurd is not Thor. Thor, he's breaking down a lot of maybe questions that us as readers have. And I'm appreciative that Al is reminding us of some of these facts because sometimes I forget them. And I love that he has Thor give a little bit of a narration and distinction of what is happening. But things are definitely happening in the afterlife. We jump then straight back to Sigurd is in the middle of a fight. He's in the middle of a chase through a zoo complex where Klaus Voorhees, the Cobra, is tracking him down, and he's using a zoo employee as a little bit of a pawn in his game. He's trying to get at Sigurd. They have several different interactions and fights amidst this complex where alligators, giant snakes, all different sorts of things. We even see an alligator fight a giant python or anaconda at one point, which is crazy. I didn't have that on my bingo card for this issue of Thor. When we finally get to the end, let me get this right because I know getting the detail correct is very, very important. There we see Thor, we see Sigurd. Wow, God, that one's hard, Eric. I won't lie. It's hard. It's hard to.
That's what they want you to think, but Thor's Nightshirt Thor is clarifying. No, that's not Odinson. That's a different guy.
Exactly. We do get to the end. Sigurd passes this test, and then we see hiding behind a tree nearby Mr. Hyde. And we know that we assume that he is going to be the next villain in our gauntlet that Sigurd is going to have to run. And the issue, usually I say this at the beginning, but I felt like it needed to be said at the end. The issue's title is Hide and Seek. A slam dunk layup for a title. But Eric, what'd you think of this issue of Mortal Thor, issue 6, and our interaction with Klaus Voorhees, the Cobra?
We are thrown right into the confrontation. So this is just, the action just ramps up immediately. We're not getting Sigurd, finding his way to the zoo, to the reptile house. We're just thrown right into the conflict. But it is a very interesting test. And Odin makes an appearance and references this idea of sort of like weighing the sort of merit of Sigurd and sort of waiting to see what happens. And we see Cobra taunting Sigurd and basically being like, hey, you should just run. You're just a dude. Like, I'm powerful, and you should just get the heck out of here. And that really is the reason that Sigurd is the hero that he is and the hero that he's becoming, because without powers, he is still going to stick around and do the right thing. And actually, the really cool twist here was that if he did try to run, he would have been electrocuted by the Home Alone jerry-rigged door handle on this thing with electricity going through it. And so because he stuck around and went and saved the staff member there, that was actually able to help him to really kind of solve the puzzle. It seems like it really does sort of seem like it's set up as a test. I don't know if Odin is in cahoots or if Cobra is, if it's just fate, but like, it seems like this is really a chance for Sigurd to prove himself.
I love the reference to Odin there, because we do see Odin the Wanderer, the cloaked, staff-wielding version of Odin in this issue. He's just chilling on a balcony.
Batman perched up there on the gargoyles.
Batman as Odin will probably ever get.
Yeah.
Odin says, Midgard's Vior in his vengeance will slay the worm, and will you, mortal man, with nothing in your hand, will you walk as my son would walk? I created Blake, and even as he is twisted and damned, he works a piece of my will. We must weigh you, boy. 3 judgments I foresee. So, Eric, what do you get from that? Because there's a lot in there. The few speech bubbles we get from Odin, and one of the ravens cries out judgment. So is this Sigurd's doing? Is this Blake's doing? It feels like it's very layered in why these tests are showing up to Sigurd right now.
I think it's Blake's doing. Blake is still our antagonist, and he's the one who's presumably summoning Cobra to go in and try to like take out Sigurd and to deal with the problem. Sigurd is still the thorn in the side of this corporation, right? And so I think Odin is admitting that, well, he's not picking sides, but if anything, he created Blake. And so he's sort of responsible for that side of the equation of like, regardless of where Blake's motives are, he kind of got that ball rolling by creating Blake in the first place. And so Odin is sort of taking the stance of bystander here, and he's going to kind of wait and see how things play out. He could swoop in at any moment and just Odin things up with, a decree, or he's still pretty powerful, but he's, really embracing that role of, hey, he's not in charge anymore.
Right.
He's really sort of just like out here trying to understand and to observe. He kind of reminds me of the Watcher in that case, where he's like,
okay,
he's here sort of like taking it in and giving us a little bit of like nuggets of context, but he's not interfering with this.
Right. He's letting it play out to test Sigurd in a way, whether it's directly or indirectly. And the test for this issue being the form of an old foe that Thor is familiar with, but Sigurd is not. And like you said, Cobra is a superpowered individual. Sigurd is not. We do see Sigurd hold his own against Cobra. I mentioned this to Eric off, before we started recording. I really loved Pascal Ferry's version of Cobra. I loved the facial features. I loved the movements. His weapons looked menacing and very intimidating to a version of Thor like Sigurd. Now, the Thor that most people would conjure up in their mind when they think of Marvel Comics Thor is not intimidated by Cobra in the least. This is a jobber fight that KOs him with one swing. But to watch Sigurd be tested by a veteran, superpowered individual and come out the better was just a cool thing to see Sigurd pass the test, and to know that if he would have tried to escape, like you said, he gets zapped by the lightning. He outsmarted him. He found a way to get past the obstacle. But then as we end the issue, we do see Kristen shows up again, and she is still all about Sigurd. I'm starting to feel maybe Kristen is what is her role to play in this? I feel like she is somebody. Like, is that a fair assumption? I don't know.
Do you think like she's, in a narrative sense playing the role of Sif? Or do you think she's like embodying like a trope of some kind? Or is she just legitimately this character? I mean, we still haven't figured out, did Loki create all of this in the first place?
Exactly.
Loki sort of decided she was going to be your neighbor because she has a drill and a bungee cord in her closet. It's like, well, but you made that. If you made that happen, then you decided that. So it's like, it's really interesting how much she is influenced by the narrative, and is she under control of the story magic, or is she a real person that just is kind of caught up in this? I don't know.
So I can go two ways with this. She could either be a construct, like part of Loki's spell, part of this magic that he's weaving, and it would make sense to me that Sif would be the stand-in for Sif, but like a overly like doting, very obsessive version of Sif.
She could just be the narrative equivalent of Sif, because Sigurd is not Thor, and so she doesn't have to literally be.
Yeah. Or it's, a new character out of whole cloth, especially with her look. Just looking at her, how she's depicted, it's like, that's like what Sif would look like if she were in like a more modern context and not in the armor.
Sif had short hair in the 90s for sure. I know that.
Well, then at the end, we do see Hyde revealed as the next opponent. We're going to see Sigurd go up against, and I'll be honest, this was one of my favorite panels of the whole issue. Eric, was Pascal Ferry's Hyde is
creepy,
very creepy, very creepy. So I guess, man, like, do you have any other thoughts, like different paths we need to follow down the issue? I know different things are going to stand out to you, so I want to know if you got anything else before we read the solicitation for the next issue.
It seems like the story magic here is really powerful, because it feels like if they were going all out trying to kill Sigurd Jarlsson, they could do that. Cobra even mentions, normally, my Cobra's bite is poisoned or something like that. He has like this claw.
Yeah.
And he's like, normally it's poisoned, but like I didn't want to have to do that or something. So it's like, it doesn't seem like they're going all out.
Yeah.
So it does seem like a game or a test or something. So I feel like the narrative is important here. The fact that
Right.
this is telling a story is part of the game that's happening.
Yeah. I think you're very true. Like, this is maybe beating Sigurd is not the point. Like, weakening him, or like we talked about with Odin, testing him is the point.
Yeah.
But testing him for what is more my question that lingers with me after this issue. We do have a solicitation for the next issue. This is issue 7 of The Mortal Thor, and it says, "The Havoc of Edward Hyde. Sigurd Jarlson is alive and on the run, but he has a weakness his enemies can exploit. He has his neighbors, his friends, and maybe more than friends." Ooh, spicy. "And a man they call Hyde knows it. Somewhere in the city, a man with a hammer is on a rescue mission." Now, I didn't put this together until I both read the solicitation and looked at the cover at the same time. I am willing to bet that the woman in the back of this cab that Hyde is driving is Kristen.
Yeah.
So that feels like a fairly safe bet. And Sigurd is on top of this cab, just smashing the shit out of this windshield. So probably going to get a pretty fast-paced, high-action content issue next time. Eric, do you have any hopes or things you are looking forward to with this next issue?
Dude, Hyde is a great character, and Hyde is a maniacal villain. When we had the Gods of Midgard arc in the Immortal Thor, Hyde was really the one kind of like leading the way in ruthlessness. He was like, "No, we're gonna kill this guy," and everyone else was like, "Wait, like for real? We're gonna actually kill him?" And he's like, "Oh."
Kill him?
He might be the most violent, and maybe, as we're saying, if this feels like it's sort of like a test or like a game, maybe the gloves come off with Hyde, where he actually tries to murder this guy.
It's only time will tell, and I think we're going to get a few more very action-heavy issues for our street-level Sigurd to prove his worth, be judged. By whom? Seems like Odin. Blake is most likely going to come back into the fold at some point. And then we have another Tales of Asgard coming up. What was that? Issue 8? Issue 8 is going to be the Tales of Asgard one?
This is the great thing about having the Allfather on the show. He told us it's every 4 issues. Like, so it's not a mystery. Like, we are definitely checking back in with Asgard to see what's going on.
And we'll get more with Magni and the Warriors 3, and hopefully, fingers crossed, Ulick. And we will be more, we'll get most likely more of Amora's machinations on that, because she's not done. We know that. She's far from done. But Eric, I want to switch to 2 stories that I don't want to say we wouldn't normally talk about these things, but 2 things that don't seem the most obvious for us to talk about, but there's very specific reasons we want to talk about them. The first one is the first issue of Al Ewing and the team's Knull limited series. Knull, the god of the symbiotes, the former King in Black, is getting his own limited series. First issue came out a few weeks ago, and it strongly features one of our Asgardian friends, foes, frenemies. Hela, we know her as the goddess of death, but now she is hellbent on becoming the fully powered, fully realized Queen in Black. And this issue was phenomenal. I loved it. And I was a big fan of the King in Black crossover event that Donny Cates did many, many moons ago. So this issue, it scratched that itch, and I really, really enjoyed it. I want to give the details in the synopsis, and then we'll just talk briefly about what we liked from the issue, and then we'll move on to that other smaller story that we need to do, and then move on to Doctor Strange. So, the team on this book was Al Ewing and Tom Waltz handling the writing, then Juanan Ramirez doing the pencils and inks, colors by Eric Arcaniga. I am so sorry if I butchered that. Letter was Clayton Cowles, and the editorial team was Emerald. Oh my gosh. Ben Sedown and Jordan D. White. Again, 1,000 apologies if I absolutely massacred those names. We start off, Knull, with a bit of a bringing you up to speed. If you don't know who Knull is, the first double page like really explains in beautiful detail that this beautiful the one in Ramirez
It gets into it. Yeah,
like,
for sure.
it's so good. We even get a reference to how All Black was created. Going, that's a weapon that we are very familiar with as Thor fans. But then we drop into Knull's current situation. He is a prisoner of Hela, being tough talked by this guard, and the guard speaks a little bit out of turn. But don't worry, Knull deals with him quite expeditiously later on in the issue. We then see Hela strut in, and she is just like drawn very powerfully. She's drawn very like, I am in control of the situation. I rule the room.
Yeah.
And in tow is Tyr Odinson, the Asgardian god of war. So a lot of familiar faces are showing up in this issue already. Hela makes it very clear that she's got a portion of Knull's power, but she needs more of it. And it has to be something that Knull gives her. She can't just take it. So there's going to be a little bit of that playing out is going to be most likely the impetus for our plot the rest of the way. Hela summarizes a little bit of Knull's history, references how Knull was defeated in the King in Black event, and then references how he defeated Eddie Brock, who had become the god of the symbiotes at the end of King in Black. We're getting a lot of summarizing who Knull is, what Knull has been up to, so that we have the foundation completely set for this limited series. Moving to the action beat of this issue, we see Hela she takes more of his power, fantastic splash page from Juan and Ramirez. And then the guard comes back, and Knull has realized that because he is of the void, he can do a very fancy vanishing act. He can be where things are not. It's like scythe magic. We're probably going to learn a lot more.
It's wild.
Yeah. But the guard comes back in, and he decides to have another go at Knull, and Knull rips his head off because he vanishes behind him, tears the guy's skull out of his helmet in a fantastically gory, disgusting page. And then Knull is going throughout this fortress, just eviscerating guards. And he finds a ship. He laments that he doesn't have his full power back, and he must, how does he say this? He's been reduced to this pilfering of this pitiful machine. It's this starship that he uses to get away. Hela had planned his escape, and now she's going to call in a favor to get Knull back. And on the last page, we see that her favor is to get a hold of her old fling, Thanos. So much.
Oh my gosh. Oh my goodness.
So much. But Eric, I know we're not gonna camp out here long. So I just want to know like your thoughts on Knull. I already shared a few of mine, but I'd love to get your thoughts on this first issue.
The brutality and the gore, and I mean he's ripping spines out. Like he is a villain. He's an evil. It is the Knull that you love to hate. Like he's a bad dude. But also the mind bending, and I even saw a few headlines about this of like Marvel introduces new power for Knull. This idea that he can sort of teleport and sort of take up the space anywhere where there's a void is such a cool thought experiment.
Right.
To be like, the room is empty. Maybe if your mind is empty, if your thoughts are empty, all these things that could be empty, he could just suddenly peekaboo into. Like it's so fun to think about.
It's such a you can do so much with that.
Yeah.
And I think we're gonna see him do a lot of narratively interesting. Like I think Al's going to do a lot, and Tom Waltz. I don't want to discredit the writing team as a whole here. I think they're going to be able to do a lot with this power over the next, I believe, 4 issues we're getting in this series. But Eric, any other final thoughts on Knull number 1? Hela being our reason that we're discussing it, but I think we're arriving at this with Hela, but we're going to learn a lot about Knull. Maybe we're going to learn more about Tyr, about Thanos, lots of different things.
I'm here for the Hela glow up. I was caught off guard. I love the fact that she's like, oh yes, this is all going according to plan. I'm like, you knew he was going to escape, and that's actually good news for you. Like that twist makes me like, okay, this is so cool. Who's actually in control? Who's actually has the upper hand here? So the Hela and Tyr combination, and Tyr, the last time we saw him, he was in a Skinner box and he died. He was like brainwashed by Oblivion. Like this is all like an Immortal Thor callback. So the Asgard roots run deep, and I am excited to see what happens next.
I feel like even didn't Tyr reference Oblivion at one point?
Yeah, because I think Oblivion is like I think he said that Oblivion was like a larger force of like once everything already is, nothingness. And so Knull is of nothingness. But he's not nothingness himself.
Right. Yeah. That's good delineation of the difference there. The next issue we want to talk about is the 34th issue of the current Avengers run. It is also known by its milestone title, Avengers 800. Now, we're not jumping into the main story here. If you're an Avengers reader, this is a nice recap issue. If you're a little behind, like I am, on Jed MacKay's Avengers, the main story is helpful. We're jumping into the backup story. It was Brian Michael Bendis and Mark Bagley telling a celebratory story of the Avengers, and namely Thor, Iron Man, and Captain America. There's real briefly, the plot for this is Hydra is up to no good, as they always are. In Madripoor, Captain America calls in all the Avengers to stop this potential threat. It ends up being a version of the super adaptoid that they all have to fight. Really, the threat of the side story is a narrative way of getting all the Avengers in one place. And Captain America and Iron Man, they have a discussion about how Cap can't celebrate wins, and Iron Man has a really hard time. I'm forgetting what his part of this is, Eric. He has a hard time losing. Is that correct?
I just remember the bit with the card, and it goes out over like the analog waves, and it calls everybody in.
Yeah. That being said, then Thor shows up, and Tony has a really good line. He's like, "Did you know it was the anniversary today?" And he's like, "Our anniversary?" But Thor is kind of like, it's a more classic numbskull version of Thor in this, which I actually really enjoyed. But they end up fighting the super adaptoid, and a lot of the more original core members of the early Avengers team show up. So even Hulk shows up in this book, and we get a short little battle, some fun few action panels that Mark Bagley just excelled at, especially with Thor shooting his lightning at the adaptoid. I mean, like, I thought that would work. But then at the end, we see all the Avengers come together to celebrate, and I forget which character says this, but the last bubble is someone asking Wolverine, Logan, is like, is this an X-Men thing or an Avengers thing? Like, I'm not sure which thing we're celebrating here. But yeah, then it's happy birthday, Avengers, for your 800th issue. Eric, what did you think of this little side story and Thor being represented in Tale?
It was just the tiniest bit awkward because Cap was not an original Avenger. And so to be like, we're going to have this sort of Avenger birthday party. And Cap, you were there a few days later. Remember when we joined up recently after we formed the Avengers? So it is that there's that sort of like a little bit of an undertone there. But all in all, I love the idea. These Avengers ID cards, such a cool bit of tech because it can call out to all these different people. And if everybody's been issued a card, which just back in, what was it, like the 60s and 70s, when the fact that like even having like an ID card for your Avengers membership just sounds so quaint and so like sort of
like a library card.
Oh, you can't be a member without your official member card. What if we need to ID you? And like, so, but yeah, I think now there's got to be over 100 people that have been Avengers at some point.
Easily. That might even be a conservative number.
Presumably,
so many people that
all of them on the Russell Dauterman connecting cover, because there are several issues that connect all of the different past Avengers members together. And
Yeah.
I was really pleased to see on the cover of this issue, we have Scarlet Witch, Vision, Hercules right up front and center here. And I thought that was just, I don't know if Russell had any say with like which cover gets to be on 800, but the placement I was pretty pleased with.
We know Russell is a big fan of Scarlet Witch. So if he had a say in it, I can imagine he would probably be pulling for Wanda to be
this one first. Yeah.
Yeah. Come on. He's made quite a living on drawing lots of characters, but a few of them are like, no, Wanda's like Russell's girl.
Yeah.
Like his muse, especially the last few years. But no, it was a fun backup story. Always great to read Brian Michael Bendis dialogue. I find it very fun, very easy to get through, and kind of just reminds me, why comics are fun. The last comic we have to review, and Eric already knows this, I'm going to go over time on this. We've gone incredibly over time. And I said I wouldn't. I did it anyway. But we have to talk about Doctor Strange #2.
Oh, gosh.
It was, of these 4 issues, it was my favorite one. And no slight to any of the fantastic creators that...
Blasphemy.
I know. I will hear about that. So... I loved this issue of Doctor Strange because Derek Landy did it again. He makes a 21-page comic feel like an entire novel, and I love him writing Asgard. I'm a big fan of what Derek Landy is doing in this Doctor Strange book, but I'm only to my best. I'm going to give a synopsis here, but Eric, I may need your assistance on something because it's dense. This is a dense book. So we pick up right where we left off of Doctor Strange revealing more negative, more evil energy, and we learn a little bit more about that in the first few pages. Verboten and Doctor Strange have a war of words as Angela and the Dark Daughter continue their fight. Strange continues to kind of amp up his power until he realizes that that's exactly what Verboten wants. He wants him to unleash all of this potential negative energy to feed his scythe magic. And Strange realizes it at the last moment, and he stops himself just in time for a dragon to be unleashed. And Doctor Strange asks, like, Angela, you got this? And she's like, I thought you'd never ask.
Yeah, got it.
And we see Angela fight this giant, like, rock-looking, lava-spewing dragon. She leashes the dragon and then says, like, Doctor Strange, we need to get rid of this dragon. Like, could you put together a dragon disposal portal that we can...
Well, yeah, she's not going to kill it. They just want to deal with it. Yeah.
Yeah, we need to just deal with it. And then after that opening fight scene, Verboten and the Dark Daughter get away, and we then flash forward to Angela and Stephen being in heaven, the kingdom of the angels, the 10th realm of Asgard. A lot of connections are made here. We learn what anchorites are. That's very important to the end of the issue. We learn what anchorites are. They are the male angels, but they serve like a very specific purpose. They're not like full-fledged angels. They're there to help make more angels in a timed fashion every 4 years, I think they said, or there was a different schedule for it. They have a schedule
for it. A season for it.
I think they actually say mating season. So it's like, we're not there yet. And the queen of the angels continues to get at Stephen like, why in the world didn't you open up the coffin, cut this elf's head off, and then close the coffin? Stephen's trying to be diplomatic about this, and it's not working. He's trying to sell her on this, and she will not be sold on it. So we also meet a other character named Gallifreyon. Am I getting that?
Sure.
Yeah. Fantastic design. I love the design of this character, and it is kind of reminds me of like the ghost of Christmas to come in the Dickens Christmas Carol. It's a shrouded figure,
like a demon angel, like a glorious, hideous figure, creepy but also powerful, and Gallifreyon. Who knows?
Yeah, Gallifreyon. We have this question that Stephen is asking the Queen Regent. Who is the Dark Daughter? What is the Dark Daughter? And the Queen Regent gives us our answer. that she had promised Verboten that she would give him her firstborn child. The problem was, if she was allowed to live, she would give him her firstborn daughter. And what Verboten did in there was he created the scythe magic alternate of the daughter that he was promised, but the Queen Regent never gave him. That is who the Dark Daughter is. She is like a negative copy of the promise that the Regent made, and he has. Scythe magic is going to take a minute to get used
to.
And
it's also super taboo because the angels are all about contracts. The angels are all about if you enter into an agreement, that is your duty. And so they really, really take those things seriously. So to have the Regent go against and break the contract is not a small thing in and of itself.
The big action swell at the end is Angela asks a question of the Regent and Strange. All of this was to get all of this so that Verboten would get an angel on his side, albeit a twisted one. Surely there are easier ways for a wizard of his power to kill children. Stephen says, "Are there children here in heaven?" The Queen Regent says, "In heaven, no. Not at this moment. We are going back around to what we were mentioning earlier. We are some years away from our next mating season." It just sounds so weird. So then Angela says, "Strange, what is it?" Strange puts all the connecting pieces together. He says, "There is still a way to take your children away from you." Angela says, "The anchorites." So the heroes all fly back to where the male angels are praying, and they are just kind of they're just there for now. But they're there for a purpose for later, whenever next mating season is. And they run into this temple area and all the anchorites are slaughtered. Even Gallifreyon, this character we just met. We hardly knew you, Gallifreyon.
We love the Derek Landy. We can go ahead and introduce characters and then kill them because it's fine.
Immediately. It's I almost feel bad for Ivan Fiorelli. It's design this badass looking character. We will kill him pages later. But yes, Verboten has made it into the sanctuary of the anchorites, killed all of them, and then Stephen puts another piece of information together that they were not the only targets. He then goes right back to the throne room, and the Queen Regent has been killed as well. So characters that we've known for less than 2 issues, Eric, they're just gone. And we get a little bit of an epilogue with Verboten and the Dark Daughter. And we're gonna the mom killing is not done. His swath of violence across the 9 realms is far from over. But I know that was a wild and winding synopsis because there's so much in this. There's so many details. There's so many little things. I feel like Stephen was barely in this issue past the first few pages, but it was so dense. It was so good. And Eric, I need a break. You need to tell me what you thought about this.
Well, so this is something where I think because of the success of Strange of Asgard, the miniseries that Derek Landy was doing when Strange left Earth during One World Under Doom, and he was trying to become the Sorcerer Supreme of Asgard, we learned so much about his new endeavors on this. Really, this whole world has its own form of magic, so it's a new type of magic system to master, and we're getting a lot of the same style notes here, where Derek is loving to create characters that feel like they've been around for decades and then kill them off pages later or later, which kind of really ramps up the stakes and the excitement of nobody's safe. You don't know, just because a character is really well developed doesn't mean that they're going to be making it through. And then another thing I'm loving is Doctor Strange in the role of detective. He was a little bit more he was very much like a cop working a beat or a detective story in the murder mystery of Strange of Asgard. And so there's still some style notes of that coming through here, where he is the Sorcerer Supreme of Asgard, but he's also kind of playing detective here and figuring stuff out, following the breadcrumbs as they happen. The other thing that I love, and this is just going back to the very first a couple of pages here when he is unleashing this magic that he's kind of riding on the edge, and he admits to, like, you kind of have to first you learn the rules, then you learn how to break the rules, and you learn how to control things, and then you learn how to not control things and kind of take risks. I love how their magical artifacts are woven into that. He's got these cool like skeleton gloves, these gauntlets. So there's a lot of really classic Doctor Strange elements here, because he has these, like, he's always going to have magical artifacts. He's always going to be, as the main character, kind of bending the rules a little bit. And so that's all very, very in the realm of Doctor Strange. So hopefully the Doctor Strange diehards, the Doctor Strange fans, are loving those parts of the story, because it really feels true to character. But the Asgard fan in me can't help but love the fact that we're getting a lot of bonus Asgard stuff here.
We're exploring. But here, maybe this is what I wanted to say in the first when Faz and I reviewed the first issue, that Derek Landy feels like he has tapped into this thing where he can tell a fully fleshed out Asgard story, and not for a moment did I be like, man, this Asgard story could really use some Thor.
Yeah.
Like, this is not a Thor story with Stephen in the role of Thor. This is a Stephen Strange story in a different setting, with Angela being there. I love Angela's dialogue, because she's the bad cop and Steven's the good cop. And I love the interplay between them. I hope we get even more of that. I want to see those characters play off of each other. And the way that she subdues this dragon, I just had this thought as I was reading through. I was like, oh my God, she's going to end up being the star of this book. Like, I love Steven, but we don't get to see her a lot. And it's nice to see her get a shine, not as maybe overt as a few years ago when she came over back into Marvel Comics and we were fitting her into the Thor lore, which every fan loved. Nobody had thoughts and opinions on. I like how Derek is doing this. And it makes me, any complexity in the story that I don't immediately understand, I actually lean in, as opposed to leaning back. There's sometimes when I read comics and I was like, that's complicated, convoluted. I don't want to mess with it. This one just isn't for me. Derek does it in a way where I'm leaning in. I'm like, oh, I want to know more about that. I want to know more about scythe magic. Like the fact that the Dark Daughter is just a manifestation of really powerful scythe magic and an angel covenant, or an angel contract that was unfulfilled. That's awesome. Like, and he's killing the anchorites because of the potential that they can provide other angels and other children. Like, what is he going to do with that in the next issue?
I think what you're describing is when you have a writer who is very quick to establish this like sense of trust. Like, we trust, like, okay, we know based on the clues that you're giving us that you, like, quote unquote get it. And so then we're much more willing to go along with all these other things that happen, because we know that we're in good hands.
Right. And Yvonne Fiorelli's art doesn't hurt one bit. Like, I am here for the anime stuff, anime Dungeons and Dragons. Like, I am a 90s Yu-Gi-Oh! Pokemon kid, so this scratches that itch. And I know there's at least one listener out there's like, Ryan, will you please, God, stop talking about itching yourself and scratching? That'd be fantastic.
Itching and scratching.
So, Eric, we've reviewed 4 issues on this episode. And I just want to know if you have any final thoughts about any of them that would be a disservice if we did not discuss them before we called this one quits and we hop board the Rainbow Bridge and get out of here.
I mean, I think we pretty much covered it. I think my pull list is getting thick because I've got to follow along with all these. I want to know what happens next. And so, listener, I hope that you're following along as well, because these stories that are very heavily like Asgard coded, Thor world adjacent, like there's a lot of rich stories to be told here. And I think we're learning the fruits of that, and we're just enjoying it as they come out.
Good time. See our characters and characters that we're familiar with come back into comics, and we're not even done. Like, we were talking about this during a pregame. Hercules is coming back. Hercules is going to be in some upcoming issues of Wolverine. Mm-hmm. So Eric's thrilled about that. We have other issues coming up where our heroes will pop in. Some villains are going to pop up and pop in. I think we are in for a good stretch of new comics here, and I can't wait to continue to talk with them. And I know our group chat is going to be on fire, not just with Thor stuff, but with Superman, X-Men, and oh my God, so many different things going on. And occasionally I will get to talk about Aquaman and Faz will listen. Oh my gosh. But everybody, thank you so much for listening to this episode. Really appreciate your time. Hope that you go out and check out these books. And if you want to support the show further, you can click some links in the episode description. We have links for Patreon, for Instagram, and for Discord. Those are all great places to connect with us. And we would love to talk about comics with you on Discord. That is a great place to go. Talk about all sorts of things over there. But comics are front of mind. And Instagram is a great place to connect with us. Tell us what you think of the episode. And Patreon is a way that you can just help us keep the lights on. Very small operation, but it still does cost something to, edit stuff and video calls and all that stuff. So if you're feeling generous or you're feeling like doing any of those things, the links in the episode description are there for you. Before we hop over the Rainbow Bridge, get out of here. Just remember, whatever you're doing, no matter where you're at, whether you are tackling the dragons that have come against you, you're just trying to dispose of the dragon humanely, or whether you just wanted to go to the zoo, you just wanted to look at the reptile house, and these two guys just came crashing through. Why can't I just go to the zoo? Why can't I just enjoy myself? Or if you read Knull #1 and you're like, I don't know who to cheer for in this one. I'm conflicted. We're with you. It's not an uncommon feeling. No matter what you're doing, no matter where you are in the Nine Realms, we wish you would do one thing, and that is to stay worthy.